our connection with the Holocaust, and you really probably wouldn't necessarily connect those dots. Your marketing, communications agency, Holocaust. There's a lot of years that obviously separated, the starting of YCP and the ending of the Holocaust. But when we early on were first starting, one of the accounts that we got really from referral, as I knew somebody at our church, and they ended up saying, "Hey, I work for this lawyer in New York, and he's representing this Jewish lady who is really in their family sense lost all kinds of heirlooms, art, things like that, and of course in their case, lost family members, which is even more devastating. But that you can't bring family members back, and we all know that. So that's a delicate topic as you really talk with some of these Jewish survivors, because many of them were children at that point, and a lot of them, of course, weathered those storms personally. But what they could get back was some of their families' heirlooms, and some of the things that the Nazis actually looted from homes quite prolifically during that war. And so when this Jewish lady approached this lawyer, or maybe vice versa, I can't remember who initiated, the goal was, well, these assets, where are they? Because a lot of times, as Americans and other countries, militaries went in, they didn't find a lot of the things that were looted. Whether it's a famous piece of art that was taken from a store of a Jew, or even others too, or a famous piece of jewelry or something like that from a wealthy family. A lot of those things went missing, and so it became surmised that and documented then that Nazis stored a lot of that in Swiss, German, and Austrian banks. And what we know about the Swiss banks is they're known for the privacy of their account holders. And so that's kind of their brand. Well, this lawyer said, well, I bet, based on some accounts, those assets might actually still be there years after the war. What if we go after the Swiss, German, Austrian banks to get them to return those assets to you and your family and other families who are affected by this? And so he went and filed a lawsuit and went after them. And that was a huge deal, never been done. And so what transpired is, as they got further and further into this case, they realized there are hundreds of thousands of people that have been affected this way and lost similar treasures and heirlooms. And so more and more people were hearing about this case, and the way they heard about it mostly was that this lawyer put advertisements, mostly in print at that time, in most of the major newspapers in the world at that point. He spent a lot of money doing it, and those newspaper ads would direct them back to a website, and that website is what YCP designed and built in 20 different languages, with content for how and instructions for how you could be part of this lawsuit. And so we were the web portion part of this case, and the landing place that people would come. It was interesting, we would look at the analytics in the evening, because it's around the world, so you'd see people from all kinds of different countries around the world on your site. It was pretty cool. And eventually this lawsuit finally came to fruition and completion, and they won. And so, those account holders in this sense were unmasked, and a lot of them, found to be people that, had deceased. So Nazis had this idea that they would put the heirlooms in these accounts, and after the war they'd come back and retrieve them. But most of them either were, killed or captured, or went missing. So you don't really know. And so these assets were just sitting there. And so seeing those assets come back to these Jewish families, and not just Jews, but others as well, was just the real exciting part, where all this work that he had done, that others have done and that we had done to help support the effort really was rewarded in that, this really helped to benefit people. And it didn't obviously bring their loved ones back. Nothing could replace that. But it gave them a connection with their family and some of their loved ones that really they didn't have at that point. And being able to get those heirlooms back really made a difference for them. And today you can go to the Holocaust Museum in DC and read about this case. There are movies made about it actually too, and that's exciting to see. Those survivors being able to experience the thing that they most hope for, to have that connection with their past relatives and their families going back quite a while. And even in the midst of a tragic circumstance, to have some connection because of those things. So it's exciting to have been a part of that. And that's really what catapulted YCP into the limelight and into a financial position and just even a operational position where it's like, okay, if you're operating at that level, you have to really get it right, and you have to really do this in a professional way. And it really pushes you, challenges you in a good way, puts good pressure on you to do what you need to do in the most professional way. And so that's really what helped us grow up a lot.
I see.
And even as, in that case, being in my 20s, by that point, I think it was, or no, actually, it was a little before that. So late teens, and then those sites lasted for a couple of years. And being at that point, I'm glad that I had that experience, because it really challenged me and put that good pressure on me to grow and even mature quickly in business and be able to learn what it takes to really support a client like that. So that was really helpful for me. And, we're just grateful to have been part of that and that be part of our history.